Okay, guys, we start off with planning. The drafting phase is the most important phase of the design process. It gives you direction and saves you a lot of time. So, right now, I'm just figuring out the general direction of the flyer design. I'm figuring out the main shapes, the key composition, the typography. I'm putting in some lines to indicate flow and movement, speed, rectifying some of the type, making it balanced, and off into Blender we go. And so right now I'm using a lattice deform, a lattice structure to give my shoe some deformation, because it's a pre-downloaded asset. Link in the description below. So right now I'm imagining someone running, because it's something for a fun run. So I'm modifying the vertices of the lattice, deforming the shoe so it can give me an idea that someone is actually running here, to give you an idea of the illustration. So I'm just modifying my lattice deform, and here I select the individual planes of the shoe, using it for materials. So I'm separating everything so it can be easier when we go into the shading panel. Select vertices by vertices. It's a very tedious process, but the results are good in the end. I'm just selecting the main part of the shoe, selecting out the sole, checking if everything is corresponding, laces, the shoe, the sole, the bottom parts. Off to planning the scene. I put in a plane for the ground, and I organize my camera settings at an angle. I tried to get it at an angle so you can get an idea of the movements, to make it a more dynamic pose and dynamic movement of the composition. So now we're jumping into the shading panel. I'm figuring out the general colors, the color coordination, the color schemes, and the color patterns that I'll be using, keeping it in mind, and my final design. With that gone down, I play around with the lighting, figuring out the angles, bringing out the forms of the shoe, because that's important. The shadows and the forms, or the edges, those are the finer details. So I ended up figuring out a color scheme that I liked. So when you jump into Photoshop, I'm just finalizing the sky, the sky background. I'm playing around with the final color treatments. I'm trying to blend everything seamlessly and nicely, so it doesn't show too much. So here I'm just figuring out the final treatment of the sky, the final look, the layer of the sky. I love the magenta and cyan color scheme and color play around. It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress figuring out the colors. You never find what you want at the beginning, but the more you play around with it, the more you play around with the colors and the arrangements, I think you'll find something you like. So now we are in post-processing. I'm faking out some line strokes, some line thickness, just using parts in Photoshop. This is a different technique compared to just manually doing it with a digital pen. So this is another workflow you can use for when you doing your next projects. So I'm faking in the lines. I ended up going for the yellow sky because I thought it can pop nicely. The shoe can pop nicely against that background. It's very contrasty. So I'm figuring out the final typography, the final layout of the design, doing some motion blur effects, adding some overlay blend modes. So right now I'm just finalizing the design, just tweaking here and there. Most of the work has been done in Blender, so in Photoshop I'm just it's a compositing and post-processing sort of thing we have going on there. So this was my workaround and how I do my designs. This was a client project actually, so I figured out I should just make a quick tutorial on how you can use Blender to have a toon shaded or illustrated look for your design projects. I have included the links to the 3D model I've used here. I found it on Turbo Squid. You can just check it in the link in the description below. And also the song from a friend of mine, Never Lose Hope by Conqueror Music. You can just click the link in the description to get yourself the song. It's a recent release from a good friend of mine. Until next time, bye bye.